I never thought it would come to this. But here I am, sitting alone in my apartment, staring at a single letter that changed the course of my life. It's funny how one simple decision, one small moment of clarity, can shatter everything you've ever known. This letter, it wasn't supposed to be the start of it all, but it was. Let me backtrack a little. I'm Samuel, and up until a week ago, I had a perfect life, or so I thought. I had a steady job in a law firm, a comfortable apartment, and a life that felt predictable, routine even. But sometimes, routine isn't as peaceful as it seems. Sometimes, it's just a disguise for something darker. It all started with a simple task that I put off for weeks. My lawyer had been bugging me about a will, something about protecting assets. Nothing big. I wasn't expecting to die anytime soon. I wasn't even sure I cared much about my assets, if I'm being honest. But still, it kept nagging at me. And so, a week ago, I finally caved and scheduled the meeting. That's when I made the decision that would change everything. The night before my appointment, I had a feeling. A gut feeling, something I couldn't ignore. I don't know why it came to me, but I decided to write a letter. A letter to the person I thought I knew better than anyone, my wife, Clara. We'd been married for 3 years. It was a good marriage, right? At least, that's what I always told myself. We didn't fight often, we shared the same interests, and we were comfortable. I didn't have any reason to suspect there was anything wrong, except for one small detail. I had always believed in total transparency. My parents taught me that from a young age. Don't hide things from the people you love. So, that night, I sat down and wrote a letter. A letter that I'd never intended to send. In the letter, I started with the usual. I'm just writing this because I've been thinking a lot about the future and how we protect what we have. It was a casual note, just an observation. But then, as I wrote, something shifted. The words came out different than I expected. I started to question everything. Why had Clara never asked about my financial situation? Why did she never seem concerned about things like investments, savings, or my future at all? Did she even care? And the more I wrote, the more I realized she didn't know the first thing about my life outside of the house we shared. I was always careful with my finances. I kept my accounts separate, my assets protected. I didn't think much of it at first, but when I looked at the letter in front of me, it hit me. I didn't trust her. I didn't trust her to handle things if something happened to me. I didn't trust her to take care of my business the way I had. I wasn't just writing a letter about a will anymore. I was writing about everything. I was thinking about the life I had built, the things I valued, and what would happen to them if things went wrong. That's when it occurred to me. What if she wasn't the person I thought she was? I never asked her the hard questions. I never looked deeper. And maybe that's on me. But now, sitting there with the weight of that realization pressing down on me, I felt a sinking feeling in my chest. I finished the letter that night, and in the morning, I made a decision. I'd take action. I wasn't going to wait for something catastrophic to happen before I finally understood the truth about my own life. I scheduled the meeting with my lawyer. But then, as I was about to leave, I noticed something strange. Clara wasn't at home. I hadn't thought much of it at first, but then I remembered. She told me she'd be working late at a friend's house. The thing is, I wasn't used to her being out of the house. And the more I thought about it, the more it nagged at me. The whole day felt off. So, I did what anyone who was starting to question their entire life would do. I went through her things. I wasn't proud of it. But when you're unsure of someone, when doubts creep in, you start looking for answers. And that's when I found it. A phone number written on a piece of paper in her drawer. Just the number, no name attached. It was barely legible, but I could make out enough to know it wasn't one of her friends. I don't know what I expected to find, but this wasn't it. I was shocked, and honestly, I couldn't even breathe. My heart started racing. I tried to calm myself, tried to reason it out. Maybe it was a work contact or something innocent. But deep down, I knew it wasn't. I couldn't stop thinking about it. I don't know how long I stood there, staring at that number. But I finally picked up the phone and called it. The phone rang for what felt like an eternity. And when someone finally picked up, I froze. The voice on the other end was unfamiliar, but it wasn't a woman's voice. "Hello," the voice asked, a bit too casually. I hung up before I could even think about what to say. It wasn't just a number anymore. It was a red flag, a sign that something wasn't right, that maybe my world wasn't as perfect as I thought. And that's when I realized that I couldn't just ignore what was happening. I had to find out the truth. It didn't matter what it cost me. I had to know. The next morning, I had a decision to make. It was time to confront Clara. But I wasn't prepared for what came next. Because when she came home that evening, she had no idea that I knew what I knew. But she was about to find out. I've never been a confrontational person. I like to avoid drama and keep things calm. But that morning, after I found the number and made that call, everything inside me shifted. I couldn't sit back anymore and pretend that everything was fine. Something was wrong. I knew it in my gut, and I couldn't just ignore it. The hardest part was the waiting. I had to wait for Clara to come home. I tried to distract myself, but every time the clock ticked, I felt the anxiety building. I couldn't just confront her with a number. No, I needed more. I needed to understand what I was dealing with. By the time she finally walked through the door, I had made up my mind. I was going to ask her about the number. I was going to look her straight in the eyes and find out if everything I had built with her was a lie. I didn't know how she would react, but I didn't care. The truth had to come out. She greeted me with her usual smile, but it didn't reach her eyes. I could see that something was off with her too. I didn't know if she had sensed that I knew something, but I wasn't going to wait any longer. This wasn't going to be a casual conversation. This was a test. Clara, I started, my voice surprisingly steady despite the turmoil in my chest. I found something today. A number in your drawer. I need you to explain it to me. Her smile faltered for a split second, but she recovered quickly. She looked at me, trying to keep her composure. What number are you talking about? She asked, trying to sound casual, but I could hear the slight tremor in her voice. I didn't beat around the bush. The number on the piece of paper. It wasn't a name. It was just a phone number. Whose is it? Her eyes shifted, her gaze flicking to the side for just a moment, too quick to be casual. She took a deep breath, then exhaled slowly. I could see the walls go up, the defenses coming into play. But I wasn't going to let her deflect this. Samuel, she said, trying to keep her voice even. It's nothing. Just someone from work. I don't even know why I kept it. But I could see right through her. The way she avoided eye contact, the tension in her voice, and the way she refused to elaborate. It wasn't adding up. I knew she was lying, and I had to push. You expect me to believe that? You expect me to believe that you just keep random numbers in your drawer, without even mentioning them to me? Clara, this isn't like you. She took another step back, looking uncomfortable, but she refused to give me a direct answer. You're overthinking it, Samuel. It's really not a big deal. I shook my head. No, Clara. This is a big deal. It's a huge deal. You've been distant lately, and now I find this? You can't just brush it off like it's nothing. For a moment, there was silence. Her face turned pale, and I could see the panic starting to creep in. She opened her mouth, as if to say something, but nothing came out. It was like she was struggling to find the words to defend herself, and it made me feel even more certain that I was onto something. Finally, she spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. Samuel, please. I'm not doing anything wrong. I swear. But her words didn't calm me. They only made me more suspicious. Clara, I need the truth. All of it. Right now. She looked at me, and for a split second, I saw something dark and cold, in her eyes. It was fleeting, but it was there. I don't know what it was, but in that moment, I realized that I didn't know her as well as I thought I did. She wasn't the woman I had married. The woman I thought I had known was slipping away, replaced by someone who was hiding something. And then, just like that, the mask fell. It's not what you think, she said, her voice finally cracking. She took a step forward, like she was about to explain, but her whole body language was defensive now. It's just complicated. I felt my stomach drop. Complicated, I echoed. How is it complicated? What's going on, Clara? She opened her mouth to speak, but before she could, I cut her off. No, I've been patient. I've given you the benefit of the doubt, but I'm not going to sit here and pretend anymore. What's really going on? For the first time in our entire relationship, I saw her hesitate. It wasn't the nervous hesitation that came with guilt, but something deeper. She was scared. And that was when I knew this was much bigger than just a number. Whatever she was hiding, whatever she wasn't telling me, was a secret so big that it could ruin everything we had built. I didn't want to hurt you, she finally said, her voice shaking now. She looked down, unable to meet my eyes. I didn't know how to tell you. It's complicated. My heart was pounding in my chest. I had been preparing myself for something, but I wasn't ready for what she was about to say next. I've been seeing someone else, she blurted out. For a while now. I didn't mean for it to happen, but it did. I'm sorry, Samuel. Time seemed to stop. Her words hit me like a freight train, and I just stood there, frozen. I had suspected something, but hearing it come from her own mouth, it was unbearable. The woman I had trusted, the woman I had loved, had been betraying me. I didn't know what to say. My mind was racing. My thoughts were a blur. How could this happen? How could I have been so blind? She looked at me, tears streaming down her face, but I couldn't bring myself to feel sorry for her. Not after everything she had done. "I'm so sorry," she whispered, but it didn't matter. The damage was done, and that's when I realized that everything I thought I knew was a lie. The truth was out in the open, but the story was far from over. I didn't know what I was going to do next, but I had to make a choice. I had to decide how far I was willing to go to take back control of my life. I don't know how long I stood there, just staring at Clara as she stood before me, shaking and apologizing. Her face was streaked with tears, her hands trembling, but none of it reached me. Not anymore. My heart had stopped working properly. The pain wasn't hitting me in waves like I thought it would. It was more like an overwhelming numbness. I had imagined this moment in my head 100 times, but nothing could have prepared me for hearing her admit it so easily. She didn't even hesitate. "I've been seeing someone else," she'd said, like it was a confession she'd been holding in for weeks. Like she was releasing a burden. But for me, that moment shattered everything. "I'm sorry," she repeated, but her words were no longer comforting. They felt hollow. "I never meant to hurt you. It just happened." Don't." I interrupted, my voice flat. I couldn't bear to hear any more. I couldn't stand to listen to her justify what she had done. "How long?" I finally managed to ask, the question slipping out in a whisper. She didn't meet my eyes. She bit her lip, trying to hold it together, but the answer was already hanging in the air between us. She hesitated, like she was deciding whether to tell me the truth or keep me in the dark a little longer. But this time, I wasn't going to let her hide behind her excuses. I couldn't. "About 6 months," she said quietly, barely above a whisper. I didn't know how to end it with him. I thought I could keep it separate, but 6 months. I repeated, disbelief and rage coursing through me. "So for 6 months, you've been lying to my face, pretending everything was fine, and all this time, you were seeing someone else?" She nodded, her tears falling faster now. "I didn't mean for it to happen like this," she said, but I could hear the guilt and shame in her voice, the weight of her own regret. But it didn't matter. The damage was done. "I love him, Samuel. I really do. But that doesn't mean I didn't love you too." I didn't know what to do. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. The woman I thought I knew, the one I had trusted with everything, had been living a double life. I felt betrayed, more deeply than I could explain, and yet, there was a part of me that still wanted to know more. How could she do this to me? How could she so easily discard the life we built together? The room felt suffocating. I couldn't stand it any longer. I had to get out. I grabbed my jacket off the chair and walked toward the door without saying another word. I didn't care where I went, just away from her, away from this house that no longer felt like home. "Samuel," Clara called after me, but I didn't stop. I couldn't look at her anymore. I couldn't listen to her apologies. Everything she said felt like a lie now. "Samuel, please. Don't leave like this. Please, let's talk about it." But I was already out the door, slamming it behind me. I didn't know where I was going, but I needed to be away from her. The truth hit me like a ton of bricks, and I couldn't stay there for another minute. I drove aimlessly, the cool night air biting at my skin as I sped down empty streets. My hands were gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles were white, and my mind wouldn't stop racing. How had I missed the signs? How had I been so oblivious to her lies? I didn't know how long I drove for. An hour? 2. But it felt like an eternity. Finally, I ended up at a bar, some dive place where no one would ask questions. I needed to get away from the silence, from the pain. I needed to drown everything out, even if just for a little while. I sat at the bar, ordered a drink, and stared into the amber liquid in front of me. The bartender didn't ask me anything, thankfully. He could tell by my face that I wasn't in the mood for small talk. I sipped the drink slowly, trying to numb myself from the shock. But the more I drank, the more the pieces of my life started to come together, each piece falling into place like a puzzle I didn't want to complete. Clara's behavior had never quite added up, had it? The late nights at work, the odd phone calls, the way she always seemed distracted, like her mind was somewhere else. I had ignored it. I had told myself I was just being paranoid, that everything was fine. And now, Here I was, facing the wreckage of my life, unsure of what to do next. As the night wore on, I felt a strange sense of clarity wash over me. This wasn't just about the affair. This wasn't just about Clara betraying me. It was about me, too. I had been living in a fog, blinded by love, by routine, by comfort. I hadn't seen the truth because I didn't want to. I didn't want to believe it. But now, I had to face it. Clara wasn't the woman I thought she was. And I wasn't the man I thought I was either. I left the bar after what felt like hours, the weight of my decision heavy on my shoulders. I knew I couldn't go back to the apartment, not yet. Not after everything that had happened. I needed space. I needed time. The next morning, I woke up in a hotel room, the soft light of dawn creeping in through the blinds. My phone buzzed on the nightstand, but I didn't even look at it. I knew it was Clara, calling, texting, trying to apologize. I didn't have the energy for any of it. I wasn't ready to face her again. What I needed was a plan. I had to figure out what I was going to do next. Was I going to confront her again? Was I going to end this marriage? Could I ever trust her again? And as I lay there, staring at the ceiling, I realized something else. I couldn't let this go. This wasn't just a betrayal of our marriage. It was a betrayal of everything I believed in. I couldn't walk away without getting some answers. But getting those answers would be harder than I ever imagined. Because Clara wasn't the only one keeping secrets. The morning after I left the bar, I sat in the hotel room, pacing back and forth. I hadn't been able to sleep. My mind kept replaying Clara's confession over and over. I've been seeing someone else. Those words echoed in my head, cutting deeper with each passing minute. I felt trapped, caught in a spiral I couldn't control. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her, my wife, standing there, looking guilty and lost, telling me she loved someone else. It didn't make sense. How had everything gone so wrong? Was I really this blind? I didn't know what to do. I didn't know if I even wanted to go back and face her, or if I was just supposed to walk away and start over. The idea of starting over felt impossible, though. The thought of giving up on everything we had built together seemed absurd. But how could I look at her the same way again? How could I trust her? The phone buzzed again, and this time, I forced myself to look at it. It was Clara. She had left me multiple messages, all sounding desperate, all asking for me to come back, to talk. The last one was the most heartbreaking of all. Please, Samuel. I need you to come home. I'm sorry. I can't do this without you. Part of me wanted to cave, to go back to her, to fix things somehow. But another part of me, something deeper, was screaming at me to walk away, to take control of my life again and not let her destruction drag me down any further. I could feel myself slipping. I needed to clear my head, to make a decision, to figure out what to do. The hotel room wasn't helping. So I packed a bag, grabbed my keys, and left. I didn't know where I was going, but I couldn't sit still anymore. The open road felt like my only escape. Hours passed as I drove aimlessly, the city slowly falling behind me. I kept thinking about that night, about the lies, and the way she'd looked at me when she confessed. The pain was still fresh, raw, and it felt like it would never stop. But as I drove, I realized something. Clara wasn't the only one keeping secrets. That phone number, the one I'd found in her drawer, kept haunting me. I had called it, and a man had answered. A man. Who was he? What was his connection to Clara? The more I thought about it, the more I realized that whatever was happening between her and him wasn't just a fleeting affair. This was something deeper, something dangerous, and I had to know the truth. I found a small town an hour away, and I pulled into a gas station. As I filled my tank, I saw a diner across the street. It was the kind of place you'd see in old movies, with a neon sign that flickered, but it felt like exactly what I needed. I went inside and grabbed a booth by the window, trying to get a grip on everything swirling in my head. The waitress, a woman who looked like she'd worked there for decades, came over and took my order. Her face was kind but weathered, and I couldn't help but think how much I envied her simplicity. She didn't have secrets, didn't have this overwhelming mess to sort through. She just existed, in a way I didn't anymore. As I waited for my coffee, my phone buzzed again. Clara. Her name flashed on the screen, and I felt a sick wave of anger rise within me. I didn't want to talk to her. I didn't even want to look at her name. But something inside me clicked. I had to know. I answered, and for a long moment, neither of us spoke. It was as if we were both waiting for the other to say something first. Finally, she broke the silence. Sam, I know you're hurt. But you have to understand, I never wanted to hurt you. I never wanted any of this to happen. I was confused. I didn't know how to handle it. I didn't want to leave you. I clenched my jaw. But you did leave me, Clara. You did. And for someone else. I wasn't enough, was I? I don't know how to explain it, she stammered. I've been struggling with this for a while now, and I know I've hurt you, but I love you. I do. I just got lost. And now, I don't know how to fix it. I shook my head, even though she couldn't see me. You don't get to fix this, Clara. This isn't something you can just say sorry for. You've destroyed everything. You've destroyed us. I know. But please, Sam. I love you. I need you. I can't do this alone. Her voice was breaking now, and part of me wanted to fall for it. Part of me wanted to believe her. But another, stronger part of me screamed to walk away. Clara, I can't. I can't do this anymore. You've already made your choice. I can't keep living in this lie. Please don't say that, she whispered. Please, I'll do anything to make it right. I felt like I was suffocating. My chest tightened, and the overwhelming urge to hang up on her, to cut her out of my life entirely, washed over me. But then, something unexpected happened. She said something that stopped me in my tracks. I've been seeing him for months now, but it wasn't just about the physical side, Sam. He's the one I wanted to build a life with. I didn't mean for it to happen, but I love him. That was it. The final nail in the coffin. Everything I had suspected, everything I had feared, was true. She wasn't just lost or confused. She was choosing him, and she had been for a long time. I sat in silence for what felt like an eternity before I spoke again. You've made your choice. And so have I. Goodbye, Clara. I hung up before she could respond. I didn't know what I was going to do next. But I knew one thing for sure. I wasn't going back to her. The war between us wasn't over, but I was done fighting for something that wasn't worth saving. The days that followed were some of the strangest I've ever lived through. I didn't go back to the apartment. I didn't speak to Clara. I couldn't. It wasn't because I was angry. Though I was angry, it was because everything felt wrong. Like my entire reality had been turned upside down. For 3 years, I thought I knew everything about her. But now, it felt like everything was a lie. I wasn't sure who she really was anymore, and I wasn't sure who I was, either. I didn't have a plan. I didn't know what my next steps were. I tried to stay busy, keep my mind occupied, but it didn't work. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her, her eyes filled with guilt and confusion, telling me she loved me even as she tore everything apart. And in the back of my mind, there was that phone number, the man she'd been seeing. The one she claimed didn't matter, the one she said wasn't important. But I knew better. I knew there was more to the story than she was willing to tell me. I couldn't just let it go. I couldn't move on without knowing everything, without understanding the full truth. I knew I had to confront it head on, but I had no idea how deep this rabbit hole went. I wasn't prepared for what came next. The phone calls continued. Clara didn't give up. She sent messages, texts, even left voicemails, pleading with me to come back, to work things out. I listened to one of her voicemails once, just to hear her voice. It was strange, though. It didn't sound like the Clara I knew. She sounded desperate. A little too desperate, actually. The calm, collected woman I married was gone. All I heard in her messages was someone unraveling. I couldn't listen to them anymore. I deleted them all. But the thing that struck me the most? A message that didn't come from her. It came from an unknown number. It was short, simple, and chilling. I know what you're doing, Samuel. Be careful. She's not who you think she is. I stared at the message for a long time, my mind racing. Who was this? Why were they telling me this? Why did they want to warn me? The message was clear, but it didn't make sense. How did this person know what was happening? How did they know what Clara had done? I sat there for a few minutes, turning the message over and over in my mind. I wanted to ignore it, to chalk it up to some random person trying to mess with my head. But I couldn't. Something about it felt important, like it was a piece of the puzzle I'd been searching for. I decided to dig deeper. I knew I couldn't just let it go. I needed to know who this person was, what they knew, and why they were trying to warn me. I started with the phone number, tracing it back to see where it came from. I didn't expect much, honestly. It could have been a burner number, some random account trying to mess with me. But the more I searched, the more I found. The number didn't lead me to some faceless stranger. It led me to a name. Ryan Hunter. The name didn't ring any bells. But a quick search online told me more than I was ready to learn. Ryan Hunter was a local real estate agent. Nothing too special. But his connection to Clara? That's where things got complicated. He was listed as the head of a real estate project Clara had been working on for the past 6 months. A project that she'd told me nothing about. A project she said she was too busy to explain. A project that seemed to be the reason for all her late nights and vague answers. But it didn't end there. Ryan Hunter was also listed in multiple forums, discreet ones, where people talked about high-stakes business deals, investments, and shady connections. Connections I wasn't sure Clara had ever mentioned before. As I scrolled through the pages, one detail caught my eye. Ryan Hunter had been involved in several high-profile divorces. The name wasn't just associated with real estate. It was linked to people with money, people with connections, people who didn't play by the same rules as the rest of us. And that was when I felt the blood drain from my face. The dots were beginning to connect in a way I hadn't imagined. Clara wasn't just having an affair with some random guy. She wasn't just lost or confused. No, she had been involved in something far more dangerous. She had been playing a game I wasn't even aware of. A game with high stakes. The message, the one that had come from the unknown number, it was starting to make sense. Someone out there knew what Clara had been doing, knew the people she was involved with. Someone who wanted me to stay out of the way. I didn't know who this person was, but I was beginning to understand that they might be my only source of truth. But how could I reach out to them? Who could I trust? It felt like the walls were closing in on me from all sides. And Clara? She was still out there, somewhere. Still playing her part in whatever game this was. I knew I had to confront her again. But this time, I wasn't going to let her hide behind excuses. I wasn't going to let her spin me more lies. But before I could make my next move, I got another message from the unknown number. This one was even more chilling than the first. You're getting too close, Samuel. Don't make this harder than it has to be. Stay out of it. You have no idea what's really going on. I didn't know who this person was, but I realized something. This wasn't just about Clara anymore. This was bigger. This was dangerous. And I was already in over my head. The walls were closing in, and I had no idea how deep the rabbit hole went. Every move I made seemed to expose something darker, something more dangerous than I could have ever imagined. I wasn't just dealing with an affair anymore. No, this was something more calculated, more sinister. Clara, my wife, the woman I had spent the last few years of my life with, had been playing a game I was never invited to. I was just a pawn in it all, a pawn who was about to get checked. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. My every step, my every move, it all felt like it was being tracked by someone. That message from the unknown number, the one warning me to stay out of it, echoed in my mind, a constant reminder that I was getting too close. But how could I back off now? How could I ignore everything I had uncovered? I couldn't go back to my old life. There was no going back now. I stared at the phone in my hand, the screen still lit up with the last message. You're getting too close, Samuel. Don't make this harder than it has to be. Stay out of it. You have no idea what's really going on. Who was this person? They seemed to know everything, and yet, I didn't know a single thing about them. But whoever they weren't the only ones watching me. I had to keep going. I had to find out what Clara was hiding, and I had to do it quickly. I'd spent the last few days gathering information, searching the internet for any connection between Clara, Ryan Hunter, and the shady business deals I'd found. But the more I dug, the more I realized I was in over my head. Clara wasn't just involved in a simple affair. She was tangled up in something much more complicated. There were names popping up everywhere, names I didn't recognize but clearly carried weight in the underground world of high-stakes business and real estate. And Ryan Hunter? He wasn't just a local agent. He was a key player in this web of lies. I couldn't let it go, though. I couldn't walk away without understanding the full extent of it. I had to see Clara again, face to face. But this time, it wasn't going to be a conversation about her affair. No, this time, I was going to get the truth, the full, unfiltered truth, whether she liked it or not. I drove back to the apartment, my mind racing with every possible scenario. I wasn't sure what I was expecting to find. Part of me feared what she might say. Part of me was already bracing for the lies, for the denial, the excuses. But there was no going back. I couldn't just pretend I hadn't found out the things I had. When I got to the building, my heart was pounding in my chest. I walked through the front door, ignoring the concierge's polite nod. I wasn't there to be friendly. I was there to get answers. I took the elevator up to the penthouse floor, where Clara and I had built our life together. The moment I stepped off the elevator and saw the door to our apartment, everything felt surreal. I used to love coming home to this place, but now it felt like a prison. The door was slightly ajar, which was strange because Clara had always been obsessive about locking it. I hesitated for a moment, then pushed the door open. The apartment was quiet, too quiet. It didn't feel like home anymore. I stepped inside, calling out her name. Clara. There was no answer. The silence felt suffocating, the air thick with tension. I walked through the living room, past the empty wine glasses we used to share, past the photos of vacations and happy memories. None of it mattered now. It all felt like a lie. Finally, I heard movement from the bedroom. Clara stepped out, her face pale, her eyes wide. She looked like she hadn't slept in days. And maybe she hadn't. Maybe she knew I was coming, knew that I had figured it all out. Samuel, she said quietly, as if seeing me standing there was the last thing she expected. I didn't think you'd actually come back. I stood still for a moment, just looking at her. I couldn't help it. She looked so fragile, so lost. But I wasn't fooled anymore. You don't get to act like nothing's wrong, Clara, I said, my voice low but steady. I know everything. I know about Ryan. About the project. About all of it. Her face fell. For a moment, I saw a flicker of panic in her eyes before she quickly masked it with a forced calm. She walked toward me, but I held my ground, refusing to move. Samuel, she began, her voice trembling. I didn't want you to find out like this. But please, believe me, I never meant for it to go this far. I didn't mean to hurt you. I shook my head. I don't want your apologies, Clara. I want the truth. The whole truth. She hesitated, and I could see the internal battle she was waging. For a moment, I thought she might break, might tell me everything. But instead, she stepped back, crossing her arms over her chest. It's not as simple as you think, she said, her voice shaking. You don't understand what I've been through. You don't understand what I had to do to survive. I frowned. Survive? What the hell are you talking about? She let out a long breath, clearly struggling with the weight of whatever she was about to say. I didn't start this for myself. I did it for us, for our future. But things got out of hand. I got in too deep with Ryan and his associates. She paused, as if weighing the words carefully. They promised me something, security, a future that you couldn't give me. A cold feeling washed over me. You used me? You lied to me, to us, just for your own gain? She flinched, her face falling, but she didn't deny it. I didn't mean to hurt you, Samuel. I never wanted to betray you. But when I saw the opportunities they were offering, I thought it was the only way forward. I thought it was the only way to build a life we could never have otherwise. My head was spinning. I couldn't believe it. My own wife, the woman I thought I knew, had been playing me the whole time. And for what? Power? Money? Security? I felt a sense of betrayal that I couldn't even begin to explain. It was like everything I had worked for, everything I had believed in, had been destroyed in a single moment. But there was more. There was always more. Why are you telling me this now? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Clara met my gaze, and for the first time, I saw something other than guilt in her eyes. There was fear. Real, raw fear. Because they're coming for you, Samuel. You're too close. They know what you've found, and they won't stop until they make sure you never see the light of day again. I stood there, my mind racing, my thoughts scattered. Clara's words felt like a punch to the gut. They're coming for you, Samuel. It hit me all at once. I wasn't just dealing with an affair anymore. I wasn't just trying to save a broken marriage. No, this was bigger. There were people, dangerous people, who had already seen me as a threat. And they wouldn't stop until I was out of the picture. Clara's face was pale, her eyes wide with fear. For the first time, she wasn't trying to convince me that everything was fine. There was no more pretending. She had crossed a line, and now she was scared. But what scared me the most wasn't the fear in her eyes. It was the realization that she was the one who had dragged me into this mess. I had trusted her. I had believed in her. But now, she had dragged me into something far darker than I could ever imagine. You're lying to me, I said, my voice tight, my anger starting to surface. You're telling me that these people, whoever they are coming after me because I know too much? Clara nodded, her hands trembling. Yes, they know everything. They know what you've been digging into. They don't like people who ask questions, and they will stop at nothing to make sure you don't expose them. They'll make sure you disappear. I shook my head in disbelief. This is insane. You're telling me that your little affair with Ryan has somehow led me to become a target? That all of this is connected to whatever these people are doing? Clara stepped closer, her eyes pleading now. It's more than just the affair, Samuel. It's about power, money, control. Ryan, he's just the tip of the iceberg. You don't understand the people he works for. They're dangerous, and they have connections everywhere. You're in the middle of something that's much bigger than you think. And if you don't get out of this now, it will swallow you whole. The weight of her words settled over me like a heavy blanket. I had been trying to understand the situation for days, but now, the true scope of the danger hit me. I wasn't just a betrayed husband anymore. I wasn't just some guy trying to salvage a failed marriage. I was in the middle of a criminal network, a web of lies and power that stretched further than I could ever have imagined. Why didn't you tell me this before? I demanded, my anger bubbling to the surface. Why did you drag me into this mess, Clara? You knew what was going on, and you still kept it from me. You lied to me for months, and now I'm supposed to just believe you? Clara's face crumpled as she stepped back, her eyes filling with tears. I didn't know who else to turn to, Samuel. I thought I could handle it. I thought I could fix everything. But the deeper I got, the more I realized that I was in way over my head. I thought I could protect you. I thought I could keep you safe. But now I don't know how to protect either of us. Her words hung in the air, heavy and suffocating. It was the truth, but it wasn't enough. I had no idea how to process what she was saying, let alone how to protect myself from whatever dangers were out there. My mind spun, and I realized something. This was no longer just about Clara. This was about survival. If these people were really as dangerous as she said they were, I had to figure out a way out. Clara, I said, my voice low but firm, we need to get out of here. We need to leave before they come for us. She nodded, wiping her eyes. I've been trying to figure that out. But it's not as simple as just running away. They'll find us wherever we go. We're not just dealing with ordinary people here, Samuel. These people have eyes everywhere. I swallowed hard, my chest tightening. I didn't know what to do. The walls were closing in on me, and I couldn't breathe. I had never been in a situation like this. My whole life had been turned upside down in a matter of days. But there was something else that hit me like a bolt of lightning. This wasn't just about running anymore. It wasn't just about protecting myself or getting away from the people who were after me. It was about confronting them. About ending this once and for all. Clara's face twisted with worry as she read my expression. No, Samuel. You don't understand. These people, they don't play by the rules. If you try to confront them, they'll destroy you. They'll destroy everything. And I can't. You can't what, Clara? I interrupted, my voice rising. You can't protect me anymore? You've already dragged me into this mess. I'm in it now, whether I like it or not. I can't run away. Not anymore. Her eyes filled with tears again. I never wanted this for you. I never wanted you to get caught up in this. But it was too late. I had already been caught up in it. And now, there was only one way out, through the truth. I had to find out who these people were. I had to take control of this situation before it took control of me. I turned away from Clara and walked toward the door. I couldn't stay here. I couldn't wait any longer. I needed to act. I needed to go to the one person who might know more about this situation than anyone else, Ryan Hunter. But when I opened the door to leave, I froze. There, standing in the hallway, was a man I didn't recognize. He was tall, dressed in black, his face expressionless. He had a cold, calculating look in his eyes, and he was looking straight at me. I think we need to talk, he said, his voice low and steady. I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. I had no idea who this man was, but I knew one thing for sure. This was the beginning of the end. The man in the hallway stood still, his gaze unwavering, like a predator sizing up its prey. I didn't know if he was one of the people Clara had warned me about, or just someone else caught up in the mess. But the chill in his eyes told me everything I needed to know. He wasn't here for friendly conversation, and I wasn't about to go down without a fight. Who the hell are you? I demanded, my voice a little stronger than I felt. He didn't flinch. My name's Gabriel. I've been watching you, Samuel. I've been watching both of you. The name hit me like a jolt of electricity. Gabriel. Another player in this twisted game I'd somehow found myself in. He wasn't just some random guy. This was someone who was in the know. Someone who had been tracking Clara and me for far longer than I'd realized. I felt a mix of anger and confusion rise in my chest. You've been watching us? Why? He stepped forward, his face still unreadable. Because Clara wasn't the only one keeping secrets. You're in the middle of something bigger than you realize, Samuel. Bigger than your wife's affair or her connection to Ryan Hunter. There are forces at play here that you don't fully understand. But you need to know this. The people you're dealing with, they don't play by the rules. If you want to survive, you need to make the right choices. Starting now. I stared at him, my heart racing. What do you want from me? He paused for a moment, sizing me up before speaking again. I'm here to give you a choice. A chance to get out of this. There are people who want you dead, Samuel. But I can protect you. All you have to do is trust me. Take my hand, and I'll get you out of this mess. I can give you a new life, one without the shadows of this past. I didn't know whether I should trust him, or if he was just another part of the trap. But there was something in his voice, something in the way he stood there that told me he wasn't lying. You can't undo the past, I said, my voice quieter now, the weight of everything pressing on me. But can you promise me one thing? Can you promise me that I'll be free of this mess? I can't keep running. I can't keep fighting. It's too much. Gabriel nodded slowly. I can't change what's happened, but I can help you move forward. This is your chance, Samuel. You can walk away from all of this, or you can stay and keep fighting. The choice is yours. I looked at Clara, standing just behind me, her face pale and full of regret. She had already dragged me into this world of lies and danger, and now it was time to decide if I would let it destroy me, or if I would take control and finally put an end to it. I took a deep breath. I choose to walk away. I choose freedom. Gabriel's expression softened ever so slightly, and he stepped aside, motioning for me to follow him. Smart choice. And just like that, everything changed. I walked away from the apartment, away from the shadows that had hung over me for months. Clara didn't follow me, and I didn't look back. I knew I couldn't fix things with her, not now, not after everything. But I also knew I wasn't doing this for her. I was doing this for me. Gabriel led me through a series of alleys and side streets, until we reached a nondescript black car waiting in an underground garage. It was like something out of a spy movie. And maybe, in some way, that was exactly what it was. I didn't know where this road would lead me, but as I slid into the back seat, I felt a strange sense of peace settle over me. For the first time in weeks, I felt like I had control of my own destiny again. The danger wasn't over, not yet, but it was the first step in reclaiming my life. As the car sped away from the city, I looked out the window. The lights of the city flickered behind me, growing smaller and smaller. But instead of fear, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. I had no idea what the future held, but for the first time, I had the freedom to make my own choices. I wasn't going to let my past define me. I was going to build something new, something real, something good. A life where I could finally breathe again. And as the car disappeared into the night, I realized that sometimes the hardest part isn't leaving what you know. It's learning how to trust yourself enough to walk away and step into a future you never saw coming. The road ahead might be uncertain, but for the first time in a long time, I was ready to face it.